Sports Show presents House of Rugby.
Hello, and you're all very welcome to House of Rugby. My name's Máire Treasa Ní Dhubhghaill, and I'm delighted to be joined, as always, by Lindsay, Peat, and Joe's Pat McCarry to look back on round 2 of the Champions Cup this weekend. It was a good weekend for Leinster and Ulster, but frustration and disappointment for Munster and Connacht. And as you can see, we're feeling very festive today. Love the jumpers, guys. Lindsay, I think, is winning.
Lindsay wins, yeah.
Well, if anyone can't see, it's my Grinch one. So some, provinces will be kind of naughty, some were nice. So we'll see what feedback they get now.
Lindsay's feeling like the Grinch today, are you?
Yeah, I look like the Grinch as well. So let's not sugarcoat this.
We'll start off by a bit of rugby news first. Great news during the week, Pat, that Andy Farrell has put pen to paper and he'll be at the helm with Ireland until 2027. It was a no-brainer, really, that the IRFU would do everything in their power to keep him.
Yeah. The only kind of thing that, it throws off a little bit is Rog and this eventual, you might think, return to Ireland. And that's the only thing that we almost have too many options in a way, because Leo Cullen, again, will always be an option as well too. But, it made so much sense, didn't it? And, I was kind of, it's going to happen that he's going to get announced as the Lions head coach, within the next month anyway. So I thought they might come close together, but they're maybe letting the Irish fans kind of bask in this kind of announcement for a while, and then the Lions stuff will probably come in January ahead of the Six Nations. But he's got a good team set up behind him already. So maybe Easterby might take over, but then you have Paul O'Connell, who's kind of there, maybe going to take on a bit more responsibility as well. But yeah, just he's done so well, he's spoken of so well. Just winning the shame, of course, of the World Cup, but winning the Grand Slam so well and going on that, I think it was a 17-game winning streak too. So yeah, everything is kind of, the foundations are in place. There's going to be new players coming in as well over the next year or two as well. So it just made sense to kind of keep them on. And yeah, I don't think, was there anybody raising an issue with it? Sometimes those things are controversial, or again, imagine someone like Rogers in the background who's won 2 European Cups in a row, but everybody was just great decision, great to see.
It would probably be more controversial if he wasn't to stay on, Lindsay, because it's great that he has this group now. I know there are a lot of players that have left, and there will be more players that he won't have available to him come the next World Cup, but that he has the continuity with this group, and that he'll be able to, we hope, right the wrongs of the World Cup, because they were so close.
They were so close, and I was chatting over the weekend about this, just even that kind of, the maul try that we didn't, Jordy Barrett held us up, and there was kind of moments where we just were used to, in the first couple of rounds and in the build up to that World Cup, just things going really right for us. So I think that the consistency is key for me anyway with him, because we've a young group of players who were at their first World Cup. If we can keep them for the next cycle, then that will stand to them second to none. The probably experienced players were probably carrying maybe those, scars from previous World Cups. So obviously they didn't get to avenge that. But these new players will bear that, beacon of hope, without being dramatic. So I think it's key. But when Pat was chatting there about, Rog and everything like that, my Cats, going in 2 years, could Rog come in as attack coach? Probably not as ideal, but the fact that Andy Farrell was previously there as defence coach, he's worked with the Lions, I think it's just building your repertoire and getting your foot back in. I don't think Rog would like that kind of second hand, but might be the way to get in to Ireland and back before.
Yeah, so who is front runner to step into Mike Catt's role?
Yeah, I was saying there's, I heard even Noel McNamara's name was mentioned. He's over Bordeaux, I think.
He's doing fantastic, obviously.
Richie Murphy's doing doing the 20s, so he could step up then, and it's all the kind of internal ladder that you're going through. Jared Payne is another kind of option, because I think he was with Claremont for a bit, and now he's with Scarlets as well. And then even Sexton's name got mentioned as well, and that will, it makes sense, but if it was to happen immediately, you might not think it's going to happen. But the fact that Mike Catt's staying on for another season, maybe Sexton's going to just do the year. I don't know. It just leaves it open for Sexton. I think David Newsfor was asked about it at his press briefing, and no, he didn't give any. He was very non-committal on it, but he was saying he thinks Sexton would make a wonderful coach. But from what you heard about what was going on in the camp, he pretty much was a de facto coach anyway, and so could he just step in and do it? But yeah, what Lindsay says is very interesting there. It's like dangling an attack coach job to Rog, but also saying, but you're actually head coach for a year. It'd be very interesting kind of commitment that he's made to over in La Rochelle, and he's got a great life over there, and when he's not winding up kind of every French official over there and getting called in front of boards.
I don't know how he's feeling this morning after the weekend.
Yeah, the Stormers game, but Yeah, it would be like, imagine, like, I don't know whether he'd take it, but what a carrot to kind of say to someone like, you can come in and run the show for a year. I don't know whether, you'd have to break that news to all the other coaches. But yeah, I have kind of Sexton, Payne, McNamara, Richie Murphy, and then there might be somebody else that we kind of.
What
we're not
about
even
with
thinking of.
Leinster? You're looking at Andrew Goodman or Munster.
See,
You're looking at Mike Prendergast, or
Prendergast, sorry, I
will they
didn't
keep
mention him,
them where they are?
I suppose there's kind of a couple of angles you kind of take from this. I definitely do like the mention of Noel McNamara and Richie Murphy, who have, because of that continuity with your under 20s and what I suppose what heights they've reached with that underage structure. So the continuity and a familiar face and someone they've grown up with. And we've kind of seen that over the years with the South Africans. Do you know, we've spoken lots about Nina Mar, but he would have had those stars from 17 and up, and now they're winning World Cup. So I think to bring young athletes on, and I suppose we can see the different layers of experience even now with a really talented Munster team. The last 2 weeks have come into question about their experience in game management. So I think they kind of sit well with me. Johnny Sexton, I have no doubt about his coaching experience, but do you want to start from the top? Do you know what I mean? Or would you want to get back in with Leinster maybe? Get into that coaching groove, really dip your toe. But like, I can't speak for him. He's definitely a different man to me. I'd probably want to start and go back to a familiar setup, start there and work my way up. I don't think I could take, because the Ireland job would mean so much to me. So the others,
Are you throwing your name in the hat now,
I
Lindsay?
wish I was. No, I'm just going to stick to being the Grinch, actually. I'm good at that one. But yeah, I think continuity for the underage setup with that inexperienced players. And Noel McNamara, some of the attack in rugby in Bordeaux. He's really actually excelled since coming out of that programme. And then Richie Murphy has continued to kind of reap the rewards and bring the success back. So yeah, I'm not sure about the rest, but they're definitely the three for me. And Mike Prendergast cannot be not be considered, but I think he's not finished with his time in Munster. I think he's only started his journey there in that coaching setup, and I think there's great days to come there, and I think when he's ready, he's definitely a name that can go into that.
I was thinking what the only one then, as we were talking, was like Felix Jones, but he's just taken a new job now as well. Like, so, could you stick around for a year and then come over? Like, but the RFU might not be too happy with that. But he's the only other name that you kind of just jump to mind, and he's got that experience as well. But it sounds like they already kind of know what's going on. Like, it's not going to be revealed for another while. Like, but they could have a plan in place already, and we'll just hear about it maybe in the middle or at the end of the next Six Nations or something. Yeah, but a few decent names there. Like, yeah.
That was the biggest news of the week until the story broke that another World Cup winner could be entering Leo Cullen's setup. What do you make of the news that RG Snyman could be moving east? Look at the smile on this one's face.
I can't tell you why, because when that news broke, I was like, I would have loved to be a fly in the wall with all the ex-Munster people going, what the... Well, current and ex going, are you joking me? Because there's obviously that that really well-known rivalry between Leinster and Munster, and I suppose when Joey went from Leinster to Munster, we were heartbroken, and now it's kind of reverse. But it was left field for me now, to be honest. But what a signing if Leinster do get it over the line, and obviously Leo Cullen didn't deny it in his pre-match against Sale, so he was kind of just saying, yeah, listen, let's park that, lads, and we'll talk about it after. So it seems a done deal, but personally, I'd be having a clause now in his contract to say you must be playing this amount of games. Obviously, they're going to manage him hopefully a lot better. He probably won't miss a game now, considering he's had 10 appearances in 4 years for Munster. I would be definitely not bitter, because I think he's really added. When he's been there, he's really, really committed to the Munster jersey, but we just didn't see the best of him consistently in a Munster jersey, and there was so much hope, and it just didn't kind of...
I wonder how much did Jack Nienaber have a role to play in this decision?
Yeah, I'd say so. All right, yeah, I'd say there was a conversation.
What a way to come in!
Yeah, and just kind of pick up the phone.
Look, lads, I know a lad that could do a really good job.
Yes,
here.
and I know a fellow who knows a fellow. Yeah, that's a lad, right?
Yeah, I'd say it definitely kind of played a part then as well. And then, because there's talk that like RG and his partner kind of enjoying Ireland so much, and like I think he had chances to go or other offers to go as well, but maybe this makes the most sense to them. Like, you could just up sticks and head off to Japan for a while, and like, as much as that seems like a good experience, maybe there's again, it's so weird that he's been here since 2020 and there is unfinished business as well. Like, so I wonder how long Munster are going to get him back for. Like, if the business end of the season, or like, it's supposed to be kind of February or March, isn't it? Like, with his latest
That's
injury.
That's what Graham Rowntree was saying. They were hoping to get him back by March.
Yeah. So, but yeah, very interesting. But yeah, I think the phrase that was going around like Twitter or social media was kind of, I hope people are keeping their receipts from what all the kind of like people from Leinster apparently complaining when they got Jenkins in and Klein and Snyman, and now Leinster have Jenkins at the moment, and now it looks like they're going to get Snyman then as well. So there's a lot of people who are kind of like pontificating for a while, and then it's just like, but that move makes sense, like, you know. So I suppose Munster for ages seemed like they always had the South African connection. Like I remember even talking to like Jan de Villiers in the past, and like you are kind of almost like a former player, but you're almost like an agent on the ground, and you put the good word in. But now Leinster have that in with South Africa as well, so who might, you know, because they're Alatoa's heading as well now as well.
Yeah, he's gone to France at the end of the season. Claremont, is it?
Yeah, I think you could be right. Yeah.
I'm open for correction, but
but they have like, do they get any more South Africans in? Is the big one now. Like, do Leinster now have the little shortcut to South Africa now, and then are people going to change their tune about getting in the specialists then when you need them? So that's, it kind of adds out of nowhere, as you said, like the big story of the week, and then all of a sudden there was a bigger story of the week. So it's just good fun, I kind of think, and it adds a bit of spice to now.
We need some EastEnders music, don't we? Really, for that. Yeah, because it was like. But who, I suppose the thing about it is then, does like Jason Jenkins, is he gone somewhere else? Is there going to be room? Like, you know, we'll go into the matches in the breakdown, but Joe McCarthy made some impact when he came off the bench.
Where does he fit in this Leinster setup? Will they try? I know he won't be coming, if he is coming, until next season, but is he a starter? Is he a bench player, an impact player? Like we saw what he can do coming off the bench, or how would they utilise him looking at the players that Leinster have at their disposal?
I think probably definitely get a lot of game management, so he's probably going to be in for maybe some of those big games. Like, I know it's very cliche and it's brandished around way too much, but horses for courses. So if you have a big physical team that, you know, Leinster are going to struggle against, well, then you get in the big man. You know, there's not too many bigger, so that's where you'd kind of pick him in. So I suppose the European competition and against other South African teams who are really, you know, have made their mark now over the last kind of 2 seasons. Especially, so I could see him come in with that. I can see him a bit like now we're starting to see then with Kitsoff how much he's bringing to Ulster. I thought he was definitely a lot more animated, a lot more involved over the weekend for them, so he definitely will bring that experience that I think he needs, and that will only help the younger players, the likes of Joe McCarthy. You probably have the option then, which is great, to rest James Ryan, maybe play McCarthy with him. It'll help to manage our Irish players a lot more, so that we're not going into World Cup cycles or, you know, Grand Slams where we're carrying injuries. You can manage more, because probably say, for example, Ken Doris was a little bit quiet over the last couple of weeks. Is he starting to plateau because he's fatigued? So I think he'll come in and just add the depth that we need.
Okay, well, we'll move on now to the games of the weekend, and we'll start with Munster Exeter. It's difficult to sum up what happened in this game. As Graham Rowntree said, we're world leaders at making life tough for ourselves. They looked in control, they looked comfortable, and then it all unravelled, Pat. Where did it all go wrong? Yeah,
I think they kind of fell foul. I suppose that's the home pressure from the home fans as well, but like Munster had a chance to, it looked like they had put the game away, but like add to that lead and had a couple of penalties went against them, you know, inside the kind of 22 as well, and kind of just, they had them on the ropes, but they just couldn't finish them off then. And then it was like the equivalent of scoring. I remember Mayo, did they get 2 own goals in an All-Ireland final once against Dublin, and you're just like, it's not going to be your day. It was the equivalent of 2 OGs in football there, like that, like letting the ball bounce, you know, with that kind of box kick, and then Conor Murray. Now, like, there's a lot to talk about and kind of pick at that as well, because Tyke Byrne was speaking about it at the end of the game, but like, you know, I know Exeter were kind of blocking the passing lines, but like just to, you know, throw it straight to them and kind of, so they basically just kind of shot themselves in the foot there as well, and they'll be kind of asking themselves how they kind of didn't even get like a losing bonus point out of it. Like, at least they got a point out of it, but they're not kind of, I think they have to go, I think they're on the road again in their next game as well, so like they've left it, like as Munster always seem to do as well, but maybe after what they did and won all those road games last year, they're doing this on purpose. Maybe this is a Munster tactic to
You're
deliberately
to the lads before you get on this show. Your Munster friends.
And then what they need then is people on podcasts and shows to talk them down, and then they have someone clipping it all up and sending it back to them. Like, they need fuel for the engine. Like, so. But yeah, and like so many good performances that now almost kind of you gloss over because they've went and they've lost it, and kind of. And that Exeter side isn't as good as it used to be, because they've been shorn of a lot of kind of...
They only had 3 players, I think, that won the Champions Cup for them a few years ago.
That's how much they've been ravaged, and they've had to like move people on, and We're even talking about Stuart Hogg, like the likes of him kind of had moved on. Like great players, and like David Ewers as well, who's now with Ulster. Like, so they're not the same Exeter as they used to be. So Munster should, like, you kind of look at it now, and again, you could be left with egg in your face, like we were last season, where you're talking about Munster, where it looks like they've blown it because they're a top seed. Like, so it looks like they've blown this in Europe. But you know, Munster, as they said, they could come back and get 2 scrappy wins and kind of they'll be straight back in the pot again. Like, so. But yeah, they'll be kind of, especially the Bayonne result, to kind of go follow that up with that. It's a couple of bad weeks. They've been talked up all the way into Europe, and now they're kind of, their wings are being clipped a little bit. So yeah, they'll be very disappointed, won't they? Like, yeah, they had it in their hands, and they kind of let it slip
They had
away.
the bonus point in the bag after 49 minutes. They were 24-13 ahead, and then they lost control and it started to slip away from them. Exeter were getting more confident. They were in control. They had the front foot. But what could Munster have done differently to calm things and to regain control of that game?
Well, to start with their game plan, I thought they were excellent up until that point. So if you look at who was the first try, Nash. So the forwards are going through, they're short. Craig Casey recognised narrow defence, so that was obviously something that was recognised in the coach and scouting report. So they were very narrow. Craig Casey spots that and he does a big long skip pass out to Nash. Easy try, excellent. Same thing. Then I watched that game, so you watch Crowley. So he's letting his forwards go through the phase plays, and then he's kind of looking. Same thing. Munster have a man out in the wings at all times. That's how they scored their try, and he's a little chip pass in the back to Tom Ahern. The bounce favoured them, but by God, I am in love with that man, how he's playing. I just think he's exceptional to watch, and he's grown in every game, and he is going to be key, I think, to Munster and how they play. Really excited to hopefully see him in a Ireland jersey or even coming into camp. So the same with all of their tries, same with Frisch. The pass and setup between, so Exeter put Munster under severe pressure, severe line speed, but again they were narrow, and what Munster again did well is they didn't pass the ball, so they took the contact, they exploited the dog's legs. We saw that again for Craig Casey to Ahern, to Shane Daly, to Crowley, back into Shane Daly, and a skip pass out to Frisch. So I just thought their play up until that point was excellent. Then the changes, so it was kind of like the tale of two very young teams, and Munster were far superior. And then the impacts of the bench, and I have to say, by far, Exeter's bench made a bigger impact than Munster. Conor Murray was very poor by his standards. We'll go on about the intercept pass, but that wasn't his first. His box kick straight out. So there was loads of moments that really would have deflated them.
Yeah, and it's not to pin.
Not to pin it on
Conor Murray, but it was well below his standard of playing what we saw at the weekend.
He looked sluggish, didn't he?
Yeah, things started to go badly wrong for Munster when Craig Casey went off the pitch.
Yeah, and we spoke about this last week in the show. Like, again, it's not about Conor Murray or Craig Casey or who's a better player. They're both exceptional players, but what has been very good and really adds to Munster's attacking style is the speed of ruck and Craig Casey does that much better. But then you've game management from the side of Conor Murray, so that's his role really now, and I prefer that. Casey to start, I thought he played really, really well. He was key to everything they done so well yesterday. He obviously read his brief, but you'd expect then Conor to really add, because he's so exceptional, so experienced, to add to that and really finish the game off. And it was just mistake upon mistake. The same thing with the really unlucky bounce for Calvin Nash. But Jack Dunn had a boy. His Leinster DNA, you could see it like oozing off him as he was running for that ball. It's different gravy when it's Leinster playing Munster, and we saw obviously Rory O'Loughlin was there playing yesterday, and Jack Dunn, and what a try, like what a finish, what a try. He kind of emulated the kind of Thomas Ahern. Just the physicality, the athletic ability, the speed, how he finished, he never gave up. And so there was just 3 tries that Munster had no answer for, and they could have really won that game. But yeah, just a young team who again just couldn't manage the game, and I know Graham Rowntree was really disappointed with that.
We spoke about the injuries last week, and you mentioned them there again, and they're really having an impact on Munster, just not having that experience coming off the bench. And as Lindsay alluded to there, the impact that Exeter had, they had the physicality and they had those players that were going to make a difference coming off the bench, whereas Munster didn't have that, and that was the difference. Yeah,
like even looking there, like Crowley played the whole 80 minutes, and you know it's that kind of lack of kind of the real competition at 10, like and Crowley
looked tired at the end.
Yeah,
he was playing so well.
He was playing so well.
Yeah, and then you have like even there like Ben O'Connor is like, he's young, like, and like he's kind of very highly rated. You've kind of seen nice glimpses of him in the games he's played, but he got ran over for a disallowed try the week before, and then he came on late in the piece as well. Like, so you're not having people that they're kind of trusting to put on with 20 minutes to go. It's just like, okay, we need to get this guy off, so like put Ben O'Connor on or something like that. So I know Zebo's kind of down again. Haley's out, kind of more long-term injury.
He's a big loss, Haley.
Yeah, oh yeah, like, you know, that's some guy you can just slot in, and then like Daly can kind of fit in anywhere in the back three. So yeah, they're being hurt by that, like, you know, and yeah, and like, you know, even again like Peter O'Mahony, it'd be interesting to see, does he get back for this game now on the 26th as well, like, because he again was missed as well. And you know, just for a couple of those kind of, especially like the big ones where they kind of were bulling over, and kind of, you just kind of, as I said, like, sometimes you just kind of need those kind of big, ugly, reliable forwards in the pack that you kind of can kind of bear down on you and kind of make a result or make an impact when it's needed. Like, so yeah, that's just kind of they're paying the price for that there, because you could see, as you said, Crowley, great game, and a few guys had great games but then fell off in that last 10 minutes. And then it's like that kind of thing now. God, I've never played anywhere near the level that these people are playing at, but it's like, it's your decision making. Like, you want to do something in that last 10 minutes, but your body betrays you in a way, like, or your mind, like, you know, with a box kick or something like that, or somebody not making the chase the same they should have, and all those little kind of things made a difference. So they'll be hoping to kind of get a clear run of it now, heading in, because they have 2 big games left in Europe, and you know, they still could miss out on the knockout stages. It would be a kind of disaster for them. But as I said, I don't want to get. I've learnt my lesson from. I don't want to get down on Munster too much. They could still pull it back, and we'll be talking about them next year. But yeah, I think they'll be going into that treatment room and having a look around, and who's ready to go, and there'll be a phone call being made maybe this morning, and who can we get up and running.
Sorry, Pat. The flip side is, though, being devil's advocate here and being in it, you know, a high performance setup, mistakes are never easy. No one's pinpointing anything here. Like, Munster were far superior for large periods of that game yesterday, as they were last week against Bayonne.
And that's the frustrating thing. They scored
100%.
Some brilliant tries.
They're brilliant. Their attacking rugby is a joy to watch. Like, and do you know, other than Jack Dunn, because I would have crossed paths with him. He's a really good guy. You know, I'm a Leinster fan. You're rooting for the Irish provinces, but yeah, some of their attacking rugby, some of the best I've seen over the season so far. But these mistakes are good. They're never easy, but they're good. And if they can learn from them, I know the experienced lads will only bring nothing but added positivity to it. But these are young guys who are the future of Munster rugby, and we said this last year. They're just going to have to learn the hard way, and there is no better learning. There's lots of brandish around about growth. If you have a growth mindset, then you take the mistakes and you learn from it, and that's how you go up step by step into this. You know, just the upper echelons of being that pro player. Easy for me to sit here and say I have experienced it, and they're never easy reviews, and it's frustrating because it's a game management part. It's just not slowing down the game. It's forcing it. It's the kick throughs. And then I thought the replacement, actually, front row, the big Georgian prop had a huge impact as well. That adds to not only that, but Maul defence come into question again. So they're little things that they're going to have to work on, and they've 2 big games now coming up over the Christmas against Leinster at home. And then
they face Toulon away and Northampton at home in January. Yeah,
so it's 2 provincial, and they're derbies. They're never easy over the Christmas, and then they go back into European. So there's no time to kind of lick wounds in a treatment room. They do need some players back. I think Mike Haley was, again, a key man to how well they played last year. But they need to kind of give Jack Crowley some respite now at 10 and give him a bit of a rest.
And it doesn't look likely now at this point, before we finish up on Munster, that they'll get a home draw for the round of 16. So are they in bonus point territory now?
Yeah.
For these next 2 games.
Yeah, or I suppose what they'll say and all the talk will be, and actually I think that the attitude might just be go out and win the next one, and it doesn't matter how you win it, but just go out and get the 4 points if you can, and see where you are after 60 minutes or something. But they kind of, and then just go hell for leather in that last game as well. Like, but yeah, things might still. I suppose it's a bit tougher this year than it was like last year, where you're kind of maybe winning 1 game and you're through as well. It might be a bit tougher this time around. Like, so, and then in the middle of that year, we're saying they have to go to Galway, I think, don't they, and play Connacht as well. Like, so, it's really kind of dipping into it. But before we kind of do leave it, I suppose just that, because I kind of alluded to it, but Tygburn talking about that last one, he was saying that there was lazy runners and that they were offside, and you can kind of see in the replay Conor Murray's trying to pass it around someone, and then he throws it straight to Slade, like, and they were kind of, I think Byrne even said himself after, he asked the referee, I think it was Reynald was the ref, and he asked him, like, this is such an important game, can you please replay it? Like, you know, like, and he was just kind of saying no. Like, he said Slade wasn't offside according to the ref, but he's like, well, what about the other guys that were offside, and forced them to change his pass? And he said Murray could have thrown it off one of them and got a penalty, but they were going for the win, like, you know. So it was a tough one on them, like, but yeah, they have it all to do now, like. But yeah, I think the attitude, I can't imagine they would go away in their next game and say we're, like, even if they are privately saying we're going to go for a bonus point, they'd never say that out loud, like, you know, in a pre-match press briefing, unless they have a really good Christmas or something like that. But
well, how does Graham Rowntree manage the squad now? Because he needs to rest some of the key players. You mentioned Jack Crowley there. Byrne is another player that has played a lot of minutes. Barron is another guy. So how will he look at this next block?
Get Scott Buckley back in if I don't know whether he's on the injury list. I know he came off early, did he, last week? Or the week before. But yeah, there's players there who are well able to play. You're just going to have to take a chance. The thing about it is, is it ego now for both? Because it'd be Leinster the same thing, you know. How do you play a Munster-Leinster derby? Because there's always skin and hair flying. Do you know? So no one's going to want to take a backward step on that one. But he's going to have to rest key players now. He really has, if he wants to have a stab at Europe. So it's either you make a decision now, is it U or C? But I would think both provinces will probably rest players. So that's the only consolation, I would think. So tactically, I'd be bringing in some changes and resting players. But I have do you think it was a try? Do you think Henry Slade's?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. Yeah, like, you know,
I
like,
did
just
too.
Borderline, like, yeah, but.
Well, Conor Murray could have made the decision. Do you know, it's kind of which would you do? And we've had it where you kind of throw it off players. But you see, Reynald was in the way as well.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, the ref was kind of in his way. But look, except for against Leinster, we wish Munster the best of luck now over the next couple of weeks.
Well, we move on to Leinster now. After last weekend's heroics against La Rochelle, they needed to back it up. And I suppose, Pat, it wasn't as straightforward as we would have predicted, looking at how rotated the Sale Sharks side was. They had to work hard to get this win. Yeah,
and it's kind of, I suppose there's so many Irish players in that Leinster team that Sale were kind of trying to replicate those tactics that New Zealand did against Ireland as well, with like the kicks in behind, and because they, like, Leinster playing that high line that Ireland would as well. Like, so it is interesting to see teams seeing what's happened in the World Cup and bringing that up against Ireland, or against Ireland there, the slip of the tongue there, against Leinster, like, in Europe. So it's much tougher than a lot of people expected, and they kind of really had to they kind of really put it up to them. And then it's just that little bit though where I'm sure Neen Aber would have seen it. I think Leo Cullen spoke about it after the game. It's when Leinster do click though, they're so unstoppable, like, you know. And I think they got 4 or 5 tries in such a short space of time, where, like, when they really get motoring, it's like, I'd say if you had a look back at it, it seemed like a close game, but like for 40 minutes Leinster were just kind of so dominant. But it started hard, and then they got those 2 kind of consolation tries at the end. So that'll be the big thing as the season goes on. It's like there are signs there that they're getting it together and they're getting it right, but in the middle of all that, they're looking like there's a lot of mistakes and balls being kicked out on the full again, and this is a big game for Frawley then as well. And like, yeah, like he'll get better, but like, he didn't fully convince, you know, that kind of thing. So almost as you were saying about Munster, like, it's like these are maybe good times, as long as you're getting results, like these are good times to be making some of these mistakes and to be really tested as well. So Sale came over and did pretty decent, but and they'll be happy that they were able to at least rally and kind of, because you could see, like, at the end that meant a lot to them. Like, they were celebrating those tries at the end, and they would have told themselves that at least they kind of bloodied Leinster's nose a little bit. So but yeah, Leinster be better for it. And yes, again, some like really good performances. I saw somebody, no, I forget, I can't give him credit, but I saw somebody saying, is it possible to give Josh van der Fleer 2 Man of the Match awards for this game? Like, he was that influential. Like, so yeah, they needed some of their big players to step up, I thought, and they did.
Yeah, there were a lot of inaccuracies in that first half, and it was a very disjointed first half performance from Leinster. What would you put that down to, Lindsay? Was it a bit of a hangover from the week before?
Yeah, I would think to have a 6-day turnaround with such a physical game, travelling away to La Rochelle, and even, like, people probably don't, unless you've been in the shoes of, you know, as an athlete, to actually have that emotional high and that build up to a game, coming away with a win, you kind of do hit rock bottom. It's very hard to nearly pick yourself up. It's not that you're not ready for the next game, but such a quick turnaround. And I know Sean O'Brien would have said it in an interview prior to the Sale game that, you know, they did celebrate the win over there in France, but they quickly switched back on. And it's not that you're not switched on, but they kind of looked a bit sluggish, like the knock on from Bard, I think, which was, Van der Fleer was awarded the first try, but then I had taken it back from a knock on, which again, it didn't seem that he was under pressure. It was just those little moments. He himself had a great run, but he didn't dip, for his try that was held up. So there was loads of openings made by them, but just these like kind of nearly third mistakes that they wouldn't be used to. But the endeavour was there. I tell you who really impressed for me was Charlie Natai. My God, the boy I thought he was dancing on the stars before this. His footwork, his goose step, his change of pace. Now obviously it wasn't a great sign that he went off injured, but he was also a man who come on and said, don't forget about me. Like, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Joe McCarthy, the same thing, obviously, with Snyman coming along, he was like, listen, you're coming here to fight for a jersey, so I thought they stepped up well, made great impacts. Halatoa in the scrum, Tom Clarkson with his first European start, thought he was exceptional in the scrum. So there was really good signs, especially in the set piece, which we would have struggled against bigger teams. I think Sale made 12 changes, did they?
Wow, yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was much change.
A lot of injuries. Obviously, they have a big game this weekend, I think, in the Premiership. So they wanted to really rest players. But I was very impressed they had their homework done. They certainly didn't return kicks from Leinster. They wanted to run it from deep. Their two wingers were absolutely exceptional. And they weren't afraid to grubber kick, which led to their first try, that little chip in behind. They were probably unlucky when what's his name got yellow carded, Robbie Henshaw. Like, I thought, he did go for the arm, and if he got that ball, it was a try. So they lived on their nerves, I suppose, in the first half. But when they got, it was a 30 unanswered point really for a period. So
they scored 4 unanswered tries in the second half. So what changed for them?
I think they got an absolute rollicking at half time. I think that's the only thing that changed. They got an absolute rocket. So whatever happened, and we knew that, and I think the impacts then off the bench really added to it. So Cian Healy was great to see him back, got a great try. He was so humble in his injury, really supportive, and then I don't know, he's like Lazarus, that lad. He just comes back. You think he's gone, he's back. So congratulations to him. It's great to see him back. But I think they just got a rollicking, and we're told, because other than Sheehan and Van der Fleer, no one stood out in the first half.
They're a bit off their usual standard, Leinster are at this point, but they're still winning games and they're still in a good position in Europe and the URC. Is there anything worrying you in their performances, Pat?
No, not so much. It was interesting to kind of see there, again with Furlong kind of being out because of the personal reasons, with his father kind of passing away as well. But with Clarkson kind of coming in, and it was just interesting to kind of see, because that's a big thing where you think, we can get after them now as well. But it's interesting. I'd love to see when Leinster won an early penalty, they were all on his back then, and it's bigging him up, this is your big one. Are things kind of, I suppose, slow starts, I suppose, in a way, is kind of getting them in trouble, and they're almost allowing teams into contests and giving teams teams kind of would grow in belief as games go on. We've seen that a couple of times, and maybe that Leinster of old would just be what they had done in the past years. They'd put a team away and they just wouldn't be coming back from it, and you would always kind of know. At the RDS, it seems to be a little bit different. They seem to just really, they don't ever get worried too much. When it gets to the second half, they know that the scores are going to come and that they're going to outlast these sides as well. But there's just a kind of few injuries and people missing, because scrum halves now, Cormac Foley's out, Luke McGrath's getting back to training again. They probably need him back.
Ben Murphy was excellent though.
Yeah,
when he was, and Prendergast, they were both very impressive when they came on.
Prendergast, that fella just oozes confidence, doesn't he? I'd say nothing would shake that fella.
Yeah,
he's just he's good. Yeah, but Ben Murphy I was impressed with because he again made a huge impact, because he started to really speed up those rucks. Even Gibson Park was a little bit out of sorts, kind of mistakes, knock-ons. And I don't know whether
he was so influential last week against La Rochelle.
Hugely, he was a huge factor. But I don't know whether, I was trying to see it during the game. I was like, is our Sale players holding on to the ball? They were really slowing it down anyway. I was like, I don't know whether someone has a hand or a foot, but he was really struggling to get the ball out, and that was a huge impact in the first half, the slow ruck ball. But to build on Pat's point, I wouldn't be worried right now. I think we were so confident last year with how well Leinster were winning. They were just untouchable, and I think right now it just keeps them on an even keel. It'll give players time to not be under pressure that they have to be at their peak performance right now, because
they're not going to get complacent.
I don't think so. I think it's nice to always stay grounded and have something to work towards. It's not the business end of the season. You want to keep everyone fit, healthy, and that bite is there, and I think there'll be hopefully lots of rotations now over the next 2 weeks, and players to get their shot. I'd love to see Prendergast maybe get 2 starts, but the counter argument to that is Frawley hasn't had enough time.
Yeah,
at
we're
10.
moaning about giving Frawley games and then
But then what do you do with Prendergast? So they need to kind of make a decision on that. When Frawley, his pass out to Jimmy O'Brien for that line break, some of his passes when he skipped, probably what we call the 30-40, like it was a really wide pass and put Sale under pressure. I thought he was excellent. He made a line break, I think, from I can't remember, did that lead to Henshaw's try? So he again showed glimpses of what he can do. But he looked a bit nervy, absolutely.
Yeah, a
that
nervy
high
enough
ball.
start. But I think all the players looked a bit nervy from Leinster at the start. But maybe he just needs that run of game, Pat.
Yeah, like so. It'd be wouldn't that? I suppose those guys are probably all lining up against each other. Who they'll be all eager to know, and they might have even found out now already who's going to start. Internally, might know, but there'll be a few of them would love to start. Against Munster on the 26th, then and give themselves another really big test as well. So you could maybe see. Prendergast, you could get a start against Ulster maybe when they come down to Dublin. But a lot of people kind of really kind of need that kind of challenge as well. But they're. It'd be fascinating. I'd say, definitely, if you could give Frawley another game in a row, just at least 2 games in a row, put him at 10 against Munster, and that'd be a real test, and then see how he gets on as well. Because, there's enough there to kind of tell you, let's look at this a little bit longer. But at the same time, that's just said, someone like Prendergast, him and Crowley just seem to be cut from the same cloth, don't they? Go around like uber confident as well. So he is not far away from really pushing for starts all the time as well. So but that's great, isn't it? You have a guy coming off the bench, just he only has 10 minutes, but he's going to show you what he can do as well. So it's funny. I was actually saying I was lucky to be asked back onto the show, having given Leinster no hope against La Rochelle a couple of weeks ago. And
well, we just
you
have
were
no one
both
else,
in it.
Pat. Actually,
there's nobody else to make it. But I've gone I suppose maybe the impact of that win. I've gone from being kind of I still don't see anything that's going to change my mind. To now all of a sudden being a lot more confident in them, and maybe because Baird and McCarthy are 2 players who are having a bit of an impact this season as well, and someone like Sheehan and stuff like that. There's enough there to kind of start kind of really kind of feeling confident for what's to come in the next kind of the end run of the season.
Before we move on from Leinster, I just want to get your thoughts on the co-captain situation, because last week Matthew Carley refused to speak to James Ryan. It was the same situation this weekend. Leo Cullen came out and said that the co-captaining is working great for them. They have 2 leaders that are leading the group during the week. But is it playing against them at game time now?
Well, I don't know what James Ryan has done. He obviously didn't send a bottle of wine to the referees because they will not.
It seemed a bit ridiculous this weekend because he hadn't done anything. Even Porter was having a little chin wag with the ref, about scrum time, and that's some referees will just tell you, do not even look sideways at me, so you kind of have to say, may I talk with you, sir, or ma'am, and they'll give you permission. Then normally they'll go through the captain. So I think what Leinster need to do now is identify who the actual the conduit is. Just one captain as regards that, so all messages go through that one, because it's kind of a bit farcical now at this stage. I think the co-captaincy, and I know that it's come under a lot of scrutiny, I think for players in such a high performing, with so many talented players, it just takes the pressure off, because sometimes when you're made captain you think you have to have these magical words, and it kind of can take away from your playing. But I don't think it's affected either of those players, and that's key for me, is that when you're made captain, that it doesn't, it's your playing, you're there for your ability and obviously what you do in the dressing room. So I think it probably is working on a performance level, but as regards just that communication and feedback from the referee, I think they probably go into a game and just nominate one of the lads to speak with the referee and to speak back to players, because they can still chat among themselves. It's a decision whether they're going to the corner, and that's probably preempted with a pitch map before that, depending on the opposition. So I think you don't want the drama being about that they won't talk to James Ryan. It's a bit like schoolyard stuff. You're like, here. But I like the concept of it. It doesn't work for every team, and I can see the point of it. But for young players, especially in young teams, I think sometimes it just kind of spreads the pressure out and doesn't undermine the performance.
I kind of wonder, is this now going to affect James Ryan's Ireland captaincy chances? Because that's up in the air, and it probably would have been between him and Peter O'Mahony, to get the Ireland captaincy, so. And there's been negativity in the last 2 weeks, and people kind of saying, Ryan still needs to learn that. So then on a national scale, and we've seen it in the past, even with Ireland, that he's probably just, a lot of people are thinking, is he better just kind of doing his job and going about his own work? And other people might say he has the potential to be a captain, but it can't be good for him. Like, and maybe Farrell's made his mind up already. Like, but that's not going in his favour. Like, so I'd be very interested to say. For me, it feels like Peter O'Mahony is the favourite to kind of lead Ireland in the Six Nations. But yeah, it's not a good look at the moment that refs won't talk to the poor bloke. Like, yeah.
He's a good guy, lads. Give him a break.
Give him a break.
We'll move on to Connacht next. It was a much improved performance from Peat Wilkins' side, but Saracens' big men managed to get the job done. It finished 55-36. What did you make of the game, Pat?
Yeah, Connacht almost got them angry, didn't they? Like, because they started well, and just two sides kind of going at each other, and and just looked very positive at the start from Connacht, like, and but they just couldn't handle the big pack then when they got it going, and it's like once they bowled their way over and kind of showed that there was a hole there, like in their game, they just kept picking at it, and it was like a gaping wound by the end of the match. But they got something out of it, like, they still went and they kind of kept at them, and they scored some nice tries, like, but it's like two big defeats. Like, I suppose the thing that did all the damage was last week, at losing the home game so badly as well, like, but like they restored a bit of pride, like, but it looks like I'd be probably more confident saying that their European adventure is over, and maybe get the most out of the can from the next couple of games, and even if you can deliver one big night for the fans at the sports ground in January, that'd be a kind of positive at this stage. But it's just interesting to kind of see, like, of all the players and their power, we're talking about just Owen Farrell. I know he's taken a step back from England, like, but just when he's on it, he's just so good as well, like, and a couple of great passes in there, and
Jamie
runs.
George as well was really clinical.
There's talk of talk over in England of, like, now remember they got in trouble with the salary stuff before, but now they're coming to some arrangement with the RFU where they can keep Jamie George and Atoje at Saracens then as well, like, and this is by maybe in a kind of above board kind of manner now as well, like, so that's good to kind of see, but just far too much kind of power for them, and then a couple of tries that Connacht will just be cursing over, like, there's one where a guy was like skating down the kind of wing and they didn't put him out of play, and Prendergast will be, it was a kind of up and down performance. He kept going, scored a nice try at the end, but he'll be kicking himself over that kind of try that I think it was their Argentinian lads, was it Gonzalez?
He got player of the match.
He just couldn't get him down, like, so but at least they kept going and they started well, like, but at the same time I think it was 8 tries I think they conceded, so you can't be too positive about them when something like that happens. So the Grinch might have a few words to say about them.
like Munster, Connacht started the game well, and they were 17 to 8 points ahead halfway through the first half. And on the attack, they looked organised. They looked, when they're on song like Munster, they looked so good when they're scoring tries. But defensively, they're leaking far too many tries. Like, they leaked 40 points to Bordeaux last weekend, 55 points this weekend. What is their biggest issue, Lindsay, defensively?
Well, it's letting it's firstly mistakes. So there was the naivety, and you have to be nearly cynical or use things like you have to use the sideline, you have to slow down the breakdown, you have to man and ball. Like last week, they in broken play, Bordeaux were so easily able to get gain line and forward momentum. Then they were just running support lines like they had another big win this week. So they're definitely a team who are kind of saying, "Pick me, we are going to be a team to watch." So if you do not put teams or stop them on the gain line, if they're going to get momentum, they're going to break you open. And for some reason, Connacht cannot, even when teams make line breaks, you actually have to be smart in where the play is going to go, and that comes with experience as well. We saw that with Courtney Laws, actually, who had a try saving tackle in his game for Northampton. So, and he's not even in the picture when you see this. So it's kind of moments like that with Connacht when you're like, oh God, the endeavour is there, and we wanted the bounce back from them. We wanted kind of this reaction, and we did for the first half. But then the same issues come along, and it's defensively. And I think they really need to start looking at maybe their line speed, their tackle completion, and they really kind of need to up their physicality. I feel for Prendergast, he was standout last week. To again come and be that sole leader again is hard to do 2 weeks on the bounce. So again, we can see glimpses of where this man is going, but he can't do it by himself,
And it's really frustrating because that was their biggest scoring tally on English soil. So they're doing a lot right. But like Lindsay said, a lot of their own errors are letting teams back into the game.
Yeah, and then just kind of give an easy field position and kind of... and then just kind of the big thing then is like once the forwards kind of know you've got an edge, it's like sometimes going away to play in France as well, like, and then the forwards are just like, we know what we're going to do here, like, almost like dropping the ball on purpose. You can have a scrum and you can have a crack against them, and they were just going for the line, and Connacht had no answer to it almost, like, so there's not much you can kind of do there. And then once you do that, and if you try and get cynical and near your own try line, then the ref's going against you as well, like, so a lot kind of fell apart. And they'll have to kind of look at how do we slow things down for a while, and how do we take the sting out of a game for a while, and like stop a team from getting 2 or 3 tries on us. So lots to kind of fix there, because it's funny, like, we've spoken about them, there's so much going right for them as well, it seemed, but now it's like it's like they unlucky in the URC with a couple of results, and now they've kind of lost heavily enough in 2 kind of big European games, so like it's just in danger. You don't want the season to get away from you, so they have a big game coming up this Friday now, like, and see if they can kind of get back on the kind of winning path then as well.
Yeah, Pete Wilkins said after the game, we can use it as a learning, as motivation, the chance to get better, but it must be difficult, Lindsay, to have these 2 huge beatings back to back.
It is, and I can see his point. So a bit like what Pat said, do they just now render themselves that the European competition is to now rotate players, get a lot of experience against really good teams, and use that as a review to build for a really big push in the URC? Because really that's the way it seems like to me. Really, I can see he rotates every week, whether it's Hanrahan, McCarty, or
Porch was starting as well.
Porch was starting, so their front row, which their areas now, I don't believe in inconsistency. They are units that you need, especially for scrum and set piece, especially for the link between your backs and forwards, and your field play and your field position, and tactically what you want to implement. So that's the only thing I'd question now about that. But at the same time, if there's a reason behind it and you want to get players experience, brilliant. But I think now at this stage, look for improvements in your performances, especially in Europe, and then get back to winning ways in the URC.
And finally, on to Ulster. They ended their 3-game losing streak with an impressive performance against Racing on Saturday night. We were hoping for a response from Ulster, Pat, and we got that.
Yeah, and that was it. And that was almost like a season defining, or like the season was hinging on getting a win there, and they did it so well. And I loved, actually, the thing that stood out for me most is, like, remember we sometimes talk about the Ulster backline. It's like, if they spent as much time thinking about how to get the backline moving like they do about these quick taps and rolling mauls, like, because there are things of beauty to watch. Like, if you're massive into the forwards and kind of a big fan of that side of the game, there's so much great stuff to watch. You see the one where, like, Cooney took the quick tap penalty, but
he passed it on. He wasn't going into contact with the big man.
But great to kind of see that. And then McCloskey, good to see him kind of now back and having a real impact as well. And
Timony played well.
Yeah, he was
a
good.
lot of their big name players stood up, like McCloskey, Ian Henderson, Stockdale,
Lowry. When I saw the team sheet, actually, I had a huge kind of feeling of hope and kind of excitement for them. Was definitely some big experience. Rob Herring back in, which it's hard because Tom Stewart is so good, but Herring is back in there. Kitsoff, Henderson, Stockdale, Balakoon, they all played really well. And they stuck to actually what Ulster do well. So they the maul try at the start. They from that quick tap, again the quick tap. Mauled over for Timony's second try, I think.
3 of their 4 tries came.
Could use their physicality to really just kind of pound them, pound wrestling towards their line, and they got it over and they ooze confidence. And one thing that really stood out for me is, like, Stuart McCluskey comes up and he's given this, fist, and they kind of just really built on every time they scored, and they were kind of like, yeah, we can play, so watch us. They were delighted, and I liked that enthusiasm and that energy from them. And you're kind of like, good. That petulance was left at the door from the last couple of weeks that we've kind of seen creep through.
Yeah.
John Cooney was exceptional in how he moved that the ball from the ruck. Really, I think, added to them. And I was very impressed. A little bit of probably positionally for Ballacune anyway for one of the Racing tries was questionable, but all in all, very, very happy with them.
This will fill them with confidence now as they welcome Connacht on Friday night. But we knew Ulster had this potential in them, but they weren't able to show it when it came to the big games. And now it's important that they back it up.
Yeah. They're a team where it seems like they need to have all their, like when everybody's fit, they're like a trouble again. It's just they get stretched too thin, and there's not as many kind of those homegrown players in the pack that they kind of can rely on as well. So, they really get stretched. But now, like even like let's say Kitsoff when he first arrived, you're expecting this guy to be amazing the minute he arrives, and I think even he gave an interview and said, like I feel like I'm getting up to speed now, and he had a bit more of an impact then as well, and it's probably settling in and getting to know people and having a bit of camaraderie with them as well. So, yeah, they'll be very keen to kind of now go and kind of build on that now. And yeah, you can kind of see quickly, like it's a season where like you're not like, apart from I was going to say you're not going to go through a season undefeated, like, but if you can get 2 or 3 wins together, like all of a sudden things don't look as bad as they were as well. So they'll be very keen. It'd be interesting to kind of see. Like everybody just targets like let's go heavy and let's go hard with like for the home games, and you'll see close to full strength squads, and then they mix it up a little bit for the away games. But like, would they fancy their chances? Because Leinster are going to mix it up a little bit. It's almost like trying to like they have to share their resources a little bit. So, but yeah, they'll definitely kind of they'll go for it at home and kind of see it. Like they'll be kind of looking at this Connacht game, and then you can see Connacht conceding the points and having these runs where they can't stop teams score, and like and then their tails are up now, so they'll be practiced. The lab is going to be cooking all week, I'd say, with all.
Well,
different
it'll be very
moves.
difficult for Connacht to come to Belfast and to beat Ulster if they play like they did at the weekend. What do you expect from this game?
Am I right that Connacht got their first win last year away in Kingspan last year? That was
their second one away, I think.
Yeah, like they really caused an upset with that last year.
They beat them in the quarter-final last year, but a few years ago they had beaten them during Andy Friend's time.
Yeah. They
beat them in Belfast for the first time in 60 years.
It'll be an interesting match because obviously now, Connacht really, we want to see another build on a response, from this week's performance. Ulster, what I'd actually like to see is keep your team. Keep your team, Dan McFarlane, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a bit of consistency, because it was lovely to see Mike Lowry back, because we're used to those, him receiving that, kick receipt, whether it's for territory or whatever, and he just really starts the attack from that, and he was key to that line break for one of the tries. So again, they're well able to play in broken play as well, and I think he's going to be key to that. We've seen the consistency of Ballacune and Stockdale, and then that partnership is really reignited between Hume and McCluskey. So I'd really like to see that consistency. Go with your half-back pairing you started with and your pack. I would change nothing unless you have injury or someone has a really different form, but I'd like to see them now kind of build that consistency over the next 2 matches, because I think that'll bring the confidence back. Hopefully kind of bring a bit of bite maybe to train, and tell lads, come and get this jersey if you want it. But I think they kind of need just that little bit of TLC and love and bit of confidence back to say, no, we are a good team, and we need to kind of prove that now over the next couple of weeks. But I would hope we see more of the same from Ulster. Sorry, I don't want another loss for Connacht. But yeah.
And finally, we were going to finish on Ulster, but producer Enda has put some news on the screen here for us. Quaylen Doris is after signing a new IRFU contract, which will leave him with Ireland until 2027. A brilliant bit of business, Pat.
Yes, and you said Quaylen, which is probably is how you pronounce it, is it? I've probably been
Quaylen is what I'd say, yeah.
Because he's from Mayo. I was thinking maybe I've got it wrong the whole time.
That's the Gaeilgeoir in me, obviously.
Yeah, and he's up. I think he's doing some. He's up doing some interviews for some a PR event, I think, during the week. So you'll probably hear a little bit more from him as well. And he's always such a good speaker as well. Yeah, he's had a great. He's just a brilliant player, isn't he? And even that La Rochelle game. I thought him and James Ryan were so good in that game as well, and so it's great to kind of just know that. And again, we were talking, it was just actually almost kind of bookends. We were talking about at the start with Andy Farrell, and it's like this is going to be one of the main guys that they're going to. I think him and Hugo Keenan already are in that leadership group in the Ireland kind of setup as well. So they've recognised in them that these are the guys that are going to be the leaders for the next 2027 World Cup. I saw James Lowe was committing himself for that as well. He's got a contract coming up, and he said he wants to stay on until 2027. So it's almost like the next generation are. It's so weird, isn't it? Yeah, we're looking at 2027. Like,
I know, and then I was like, James Lowe, geez, yeah, I forgot about him. You're kind of like between coaches we were talking about, but then you're like players, you're like, wow, we've still so many world class players.
Yeah. Is this David Nucifora cementing his legacy now before he leaves? Getting all these players locked in?
Well, I think just like Andy Farrell, why change something that's working? And Caelan Doris or Quaylen, for the Gael girls out there. I think he's a man who's really cemented that number 8 jersey, and he's been world class. Like you would include him in any World 15 or World 23 if you want, but he'd be starting 8, I'd say, on any one selection. So he's had a bit of a quiet couple of weeks, but I'd say maybe just load and coming off a really tough, probably last 2 years between Leinster and Ireland. But there's definitely more amazing days to come from that man, so congratulations.
Well, we'll leave it there on that positive note. My thanks to Lindsay and to Pat. That's it for House of Rugby today and for 2023. That's our final show of the year. We're going to take a break for Christmas and the New Year. We hope you all enjoy the Christmas, enjoy the celebrations and the festive derbies, of course. And we'll be back with you very, very soon. Until then, for myself, Lindsay and Pat, Slán agus Nolly Conna.